Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about a very serious subject that affects every one of our lives. And that is a subject that is talked about in this week's Torah reading, which is Parsha Metzora. It talks about in Metzora. It says the Parsha begins with Zos Tia Torah Metzora. This shall be the law of the Metzora. What is a Metzora? The commentators explain that a Metzora is a contraction of the words, the two Hebrew words, Motzei Ra, somebody who speaks evil. And it refers to somebody who says Lashon Horah. What is Lashon Horah? Lashon Horah is talking negatively about other people. The punishment for Lashon Horah is very severe. The last week's Torah portion and this week talked about the fact that the person who speaks Lashon Horah comes down with a spiritual disease manifested physically called tzorat. Tzorat is erroneously translated as leprosy. It is not leprosy. It's a spiritual disease. It's not diagnosed by doctors, but it's diagnosed by the high priest or by the priest that is in charge. The person who comes down with this, once he's declared to be a Metzora, to have this disease, is basically quarantined, sent out from the city, from his community, quarantined for a period of time, that has to undergo a period of purification until he can come back into the community. The Vayikra Rabbah tells an interesting story about the importance of not saying Lashon Horah, not speaking negatively about anybody. And that story is as follows. The story is about a great sage named Rabbi Yanai. And he is sitting, studying Torah, and all of a sudden he hears a street peddler. And the street peddler says, I have the spice of life. I have I'm selling that which can give you life. Anybody who wants life, come and buy my wares. So the sage, Rabbi Yanai, is interested. He says, well, what's this all about? Let me go and see what he's selling. And he goes and asks the peddler, he says, what are you selling? Tell me what this is. The peddler looks at him and says, sorry, this is not for you. But anyway, Rabbi Yanai persists. He says, you need to tell me. I really want to know. I want to know what's this Sam Chaim, this potion for life that you are selling. Finally, the peddler relents and tells Rabbi Yanai as follows. He says, you look at the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms. In the 34th Psalm, sentences 14 and 15, it says, 13 and 14, says, Mi ho'ish hachopetz chayim. Who is the person who wants life? Ohev yomim liros tov, to love days and see good. Netzor l'shonecha meirah, he should keep his tongue from speaking evil. Usfosecha medaber mirma, and his lips from being deceitful. So Rabbi Yanai hears that and he says, oh, I'm familiar with that sentence, but I never understood it until now. So that raises an interesting question. And Rabbi Shia Twersky, of blessed memory of Avraham Twersky, talks about this question, and he says, how is it possible that a learned person, a sage like Rabbi Yanai, says, I never understood this sentence. It's quite clear. It says, you want long life, you won't speak evil. You won't say Lashon Horah. What was it he didn't understand? And Rabbi Twersky brings from the comparison in the Gemara Arachin. The Gemara there says, what is the remedy for Lashon Horah? It says the remedy is to study Torah. And he says what these two things combined teach us is the peddler said to Rabbi Yanai, you're a Torah scholar. You already live a spiritual life. You don't need this. And then Rabbi Yanai understood. He said, no, this applies more so to a Torah scholar, to a person of a higher stature. Why? Because if somebody is saying something negative about somebody, then the listener is going to think, well, who is this person? Do his words make any sense? Why should I listen to him? If he's a distinguished person, he'll think, well, yeah, this guy must know what he's talking about. If he's a little schlepper and nobody pays any attention to, it's not as bad. So Rabbi Yanai is saying that it is the person who is held out in a high esteem as a Torah scholar, a religious person, somebody who people would look at and say, well, this person must know what he's talking about. That's the person that the listener will listen to. Therefore, the remedy for this Lashon Horah is to recognize that you should be like a Torah scholar. God does not like vanity, but at times like this, you should think that what I say is going to be important and people are going to listen to me. Therefore, I shouldn't say the wrong thing. And that's how Rabbi Twersky explained that. And he's basically saying that the greater a person is, the more careful one must be of his words. Now the question remains, why do people say Lashon Horah? Why do people say negative things about somebody else? And the glimpse of that, and the part of the remedy of this elixir for life that the peddler was selling is in the words of the first sentence that I read, where it says, Mi ho'ish ha'chofetz chaim, who is the person who wants life? Ohev yamim liros tov, love days and see good. If we train our eyes to not look for the faults in somebody else, but rather to look at somebody else and see the good in somebody else, then we will not be inclined to say negative things because there's nothing negative to say. When we just simply idly chat about somebody and say negative things, maybe it's, I don't know this, I'm not a psychologist, I don't know the psychological ramifications. Maybe it's because of our own feelings of inadequacy. We have to tear down somebody else to make us feel good. We have to train ourselves to look for the good in somebody else. Ohev yamim lirot tov. You will love days. Days will be beloved to you, and you will see good in everybody else. And we should know about Lashon Horah, it harms three people. It harms the listener, the one who's talking about it, and it harms the one about who you're talking. So you're affecting negatively the lives of three different people by saying or listening to Lashon Horah. Therefore, my blessing to all of us as we go into this month of we're in the month of Nisan now, going to Pesach, the time of renewal. Let's truly renew ourselves spiritually and resolve to stop speaking negatively about somebody else. Resolve to stop speaking Lashon Horah. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.